gaming bets. Online betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and Overwatch, StarCraft 2, the choice is yours. Express bets for multiple matches or live bets on the game you are watching right now. Know your way around Dota 2? Make a prediction for picks and bans. Play CSGO? Discover more than 5 various kinds of bets just for a single map. Daily quests for all participants and all the best choice of payment systems. More than 600,000 users have already made their bets on the spectacular matches since 2011. EGB.com. You know for sure who's gonna win.
Getting tired of playing with the usual skins, but don't have enough money to buy a new one? Get rich fast with CSGoFast.com. CSGoFast. It's a strong chance of winning in every game. Several rooms with different game modes. Daily, more than 1,000 games, 5,000 players, and 25,000 skins at stake. You don't need much in order to sweep the board.
Welcome back to the Starladder iLeague Star Series Season 2. My name is TomBiz14, and joining me once again will be Flakes. And, well, we've just witnessed a trade map that possibly didn't go the way we were expecting.
I think the problem with Train was the fact that overall it was a giant curveball, no matter which way we looked at it. Well, we might have looked at it and go, Dignitas, from the way they kicked things off with that 6-0 lead, should have really gone their way. But at the same time, a 6-0 lead in the grand scheme of 30 rounds, it's not that big of a deal. And, well, as much of it is a shock to the system, looking at the fact that it was a curveball, I'm not too surprised that Kinguin finally managed to up the ante and bring what was needed to bring it to the full 3. Yeah,
well, especially after we saw MSL being the main catalyst for that CT side, which is quite an unusual factor for that team. He is normally called out, in fact, for being the bottom fragger on that sort of lineup. But either way, we are now moving on to Overpass, which is a map that Dignitas have been willing to play, even against like some opposition such as Team X. And while they didn't win that one, they didn't manage to take that over the line. But at the same time, they've now got Magisk, who will be quite well informed on that map. Of course, the old SK Team X playing that as probably their favorite map, and well, I think Dignitas are pretty happy to play it as well.
I think with the new additions in mind, as well as the fact that we discussed they are kind of hot off the press after a 2-week break, playing a map that they're not so hot on might not be the end of the world, because ultimately a lot of these maps are coming down to these aim battles, much less tactician-based play and much more frag. Well, that's why we see MSL actually stepping up to the ante here and delivering some top frag potential of his own, because he might not necessarily have to rely as much on bringing some tactics to the table.
Yeah, the only thing is we are now going on to probably the most tactical-based map there is in the map pool at the moment. Overpass, one of, well, still high CT presence. It's still definitely a CT-sided map. And going into that one, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to seeing the AWP of Spiro versus KGB. Once again, the CT side AWP definitely very prominent, especially going up onto that sort of bench position into the party area and taking that early pick. Something I think Spiro will probably go for a couple of times at least. And whether or not they'll pick up a double AWP, something this team feels more than inclined to do, but at the same time, it's not always the most possible, or I suppose, favoured strategy on this map.
Either way, you mentioned it being still quite a CD-sided map. Nothing really major taking place on Overpass recently in terms of updates or additions, which means that, well, we are going to be looking to see if this will still swing in Kinguin's favour. They are on that CT side currently, but the knife round could change that. But it will be them just taking a very decisive knife round by the looks of things, which means the decision will stay in their court, and well, we are going to be looking to see if they do decide to stay.
Yeah, it's just going to be this 1v1. Don't really like to cast the knife rounds, but Cajun will actually get the choice now. So Dignitas probably going to go over to that CT side. Not really surprised by that at all. And again, we've already talked about their T side looking reasonable. Not so much on Train, but more on the Mirage sort of things. And I feel like in terms of setups on this one, I'm wondering what Dignitas will actually throw in. If they'll go for the more standard, having the sort of more aggressive pushes out towards that A side with the very passive play over towards B with some potential boosts, having a sort of rotation play over towards Heaven, or whether they will just play a sort of different style with more aggressive towards A, like having a player over towards the connector point where they can sort of take over more map control. It really is that sort of balanced scenario. But in the pistol anyway, so far at least, we have actually seen what looks like a pause, which could mean we have some more technical issues. Either way, it is going to be Mihu buying up the nades, a Tech 9 onto Minis, which could be dropped over to Spiro, which we have seen already. And well, just waiting to see what actually happens after this pause is taken out.
I actually got to say, looking to see his Take 9 go in the hands of either Mouse or Innocent, they're the two with body armor. It almost makes sense in this scenario to hand it over to one of those two pairs. Especially taking into account that Innocent, he has been doing some work with his pistols. Mouse, he had one hell of a pistol clutch over on Train. So really, either of them are a solid fit for the Tech 9, and, well, sometimes you just have to be the man to take a hit, and I feel like that is the case for Minis. Overall, on the Dignitas side of things, not really too much to talk about. We've got two players still haven't brought up. It will be Config and Cajun B. Maybe you're going to be seeing some utility being brought up there, or even a bit of a kit coming into play. Are actually going to see that 4 body armor buy being set in stone, which means we are just going to be looking to see if Config will opt for the almost expected option at this point, which will be that kit and flash.
Yeah, and, well, realistically, I'm not sure who's actually having the problem at this point. It seems it may be Spiro or someone along those lines. Either way, hopefully we'll be going back into this one relatively shortly. Looking forward to see whether or not Kinguin can sort of grind out those rounds on the T side yet again. They seem to be pretty decent at doing it on Train, and their CT side was somewhat phenomenal, and that could actually be a good factor for them starting on this T side if they can do the same. The only problem was they actually had a, well, reasonable T side going on to Mirage, and then just didn't have a very good CT side at all, which is definitely something that can factor in terms of economy. Definitely a team that prefer to have that abundance of money, and when they do, well, I think all teams prefer to have an abundance of money, but what meaning by that, there are a lot of teams that can play with the sort of simpler setups. We actually saw some of the Dignitas rounds come in when they just had the Famises and such, but I feel like the AWPs are so much more valuable for this Kinguin side than the Dignitas side.
Yeah, we haven't really seen too much magic being taking place when you look at things in terms of AWPs on both of these teams. With Team Spiro, certainly had a bit of an impact over towards Train. He was also doing some work on that first map. So overall, I kind of do like what I'm seeing from him. But there's not really too much else left to touch from when it comes down to those sort of players. The big question for me is going to be kind of putting the pressure back on the shoulders of Magisk in this one. Because he is that new player to the edition. It's always nice to see what he can bring to the fold. Well, I've got to say, he's not really been, he's not really enamored me too much.
Yeah, the other thing, especially in the last map, was the fact that Config was just silent. It wasn't really anything to yell about. He had some sort of clutch situations that you sort of thought, oh, maybe he'll do it, and then it just fell apart right at the end. And well, I definitely feel like they'll need him in this scenario. It's not going to be a sort of basis of, oh yeah, we can just wing this without our arguably top fragger. But still yet to really see the dynamic of this team, whether Magisk will actually take over that role and what sort of positions the remaining players will be. Of course, that is going to come in to process after they've been together a little bit longer. But at this point in time, we can't really see too much. Either way, the pistol is now underway. We are going to see an aggressive push coming out from Magisk towards Log. And already MSL taking a little bit of damage. I imagine that was from when he jumped down onto that B site.
I'm going to be getting into the kind of middle stages of this round. That clock is going to be ticking away in Kinguin. They're very much biased over towards Connect. They're just going to be splurting out, get themselves over towards Starladder, trying to find something. Cajun B will be the man to hold off this A push when it eventually will roll in. But the nice thing for Kinguin, because they've kind of been playing around the middle portion of this round, they have a lot of time to play with. 1 minute 10, just going to roll on by, which means that when they do take this gunfight, it's not too much pressure to rush things, which I'm hoping will mean consistency, cohesion, and overall a very calculated push, as we do see a nade of some sort being expended. It will be the flashes popping off the smoke, finally going to be landing. Cajun B just tapping away, but nothing is hitting, nothing going in his favour at all. But it will be Magisk to find the first pick, takes down Mouse, but he needs to find just a little bit more because that bomb site is well and truly under control. We do see the slew of Dignitas members get themselves quick on the hills for this retake. They do have the 5-man retake set up. It is working out. Cajun B going to find another frag, so it's that 5 versus 3. Even though damage can still be done for that T side with those blocks.
Yeah, Innocent, the last one left alive. There isn't a kit, so if you can buy plenty of time, that would be somewhat valuable. In fact, there was another. Didn't even notice the life of Miniz, and it seems like Config didn't either as he ripped his head off. Both players will go down to that one pistol, and already a better start for the man from Denmark. Either way, we are now going to look to see whether they continue this and what sort of buy we will see on the Kinguin side, whether it will be a risky force or just a save for the AKs.
We talk about a turning point. Config, he's done well in the pistol round. Of course, it is completely only the pistol round, so we can't overhype that one at all. But as a general vague question, do we think Config alone stepping up to the plate with the rest of the Dignitas players keeping their original performance, is that already enough to tip the scales into their favour?
I actually think it would be. I think there are a lot of reasonable fraggers on their side of things, and their T side really does rely on him, like in terms of entry frags. Yes, they have a couple of other players who can now step up. As said, still waiting for that dynamic. Looking here, I'm not sure how Maniz manages to get that frag without Magisk ending his life. Clearly falling asleep a little bit there. It is only a P90, so not the worst weapon in the world to lose. I would say that Magisk picking it up could be more valuable than the SMG he has, but clearly he has other ideas. It will only be one player to drop, and in fact they are just going to go straight with the rifles anyway, keeping that UMP in play. Clearly Magisk deciding that was the weapon he'd prefer to have, which I suppose is fine in terms of armor penetration. Mihu going to be without head armor, which could come into fruition at some point later in the round, but still going to be a reasonable buy on both sides. Utility definitely favouring the CTs, and well, now we're just waiting to see whether those AKs will be enough for the Ts to take their first round.
Take a look at this UMP's position though. It will be matched up close and personal. Maniz going to be pushing on just the looming factor with this AK. But he's going to be checking these corners nice and precariously, but after they find his first frag, they take down MSL, but the repeat will come in. Magic's going to be looking to do the work with the UMP, but it's not going to work. Maniz going to walk away, well, with bags full of profit. He's found two. Cajun B finally going to find a trade, but it will be Mouse to pick things straight back up, takes down Cajun B. And we're looking at a scenario that's, well, massively favouring the Kinguin side. Just 2 players left standing for Dignitas, the struggling player of Config. He had a nice pissed around performance, but will he have enough to step up to the plate in this round, supporting his teammate Rubino, as he's going to be looking to find his first frag of the game so far. Just going to be tapping away with the Faust, trying to connect some shots on towards Mouse. Not quite going to lead into a frag, but it's going to be damaged nonetheless, as the clock is going to be ticking down, some utility being extended. But ultimately, the goal right now, just to hold off Kinguin, make sure they don't just go for this ballsy all-in push towards A. The one downside, well, Kinguin, they have full map control. They can go anywhere they please. If they decide to dart on over to that B site, well, there is nothing stopping them at all.
It's smart from them, though. They're not going to commit to either site, meaning the defense pretty much has to be split. They can't just gamble on one and then have to go for the rotation. In fact, now they will realize where this is coming in, but it'll be a missed shot from Rubino, which won't allow anything to come in just yet. Molotov thrown out, should slightly move him back. Actually just going to deny a slide push, but there's the push from Rubino. Will allow one. Configs quickly trade out. He runs out of ammo, switches to the Tech 9. Do have to remember, if he can find this kill, Mouse is very low on HP, so there is a possibility. Finds the first, looking for a little bit more. It would be a big round if he can pull this one off. He is just about going to do it. No bomb plant even for Kinguin. That headshot was lovely, and well, I know it's hindsight, I know that it's not too valuable now, but could they have just gone for the bomb plant and played the after plants rather than going aggressive for those frags?
I want to say yes, but at the same time I feel like maybe there just would have been an aura of disruption coming in from Dignitas that may have stopped that one from happening, but I think you've just got onto the fact that was kind of an interesting point. Dignitas, they want the money here. They are going for that ballsy strategy. It will be 4 SMGs in play.
MP9.
The triple buy of MP9s, and already the first frag will come on the board. Magic's going to be doing the work, and the most important factor about that frag alone, they have just dropped the bomb. They have full control of exactly where Kinguin want to head this one, and now unless they can find that bomb and get the retake over towards Connector, well, we're going to see a bit of a hilarious frag rolling with a pistol, just trying to do some work, but Config, he's going to find 2. MSL going to find another, makes it 2 of his own. Well, a nice round coming out. All the kills rolling on the board for the SMGs. They have just made mega money. $8,000, $7,000, $8,000. Well, Kinguin, they might have a buy on the board, but Dignitas aren't going to be afraid to go for that rebuy. And even if they do walk away with this round, should I say, they are going to be walking away much better off than if they just transition straight to rifles.
Yeah, they are going to purchase everything up. AWP, AK onto Rubino, and the rest of the players still with M4s. We are going to see this aggressive push from Cajun. Spiro ready for the counter, looking to see if he can spot out his opposing AWP player, but it looks like both players are pretty blind at this stage, not able to see anything through the smoke wall. And well, Magic's position is the more interesting one for me. Should be able to get a free frag. Now he has to try and get out of this without doing any damage to himself, I guess. But Mouse is going to be taking his head clean off, and that will trade things back into a more even scenario, maybe even an advantage for the Ts.
Of course, that clock is going to begin to tick down. We talk about how important the middle section of this round is. For me, it's all about teams kind of reacting and being very dynamic to the information they have to play. Well, being in a 4 versus 4 situation, you'd think that both of these teams have a vague idea of where each other are playing this one out. And of course, Kinguin, well, they're placing their bets over towards that B site. That's where they think they can make their money, find themselves a plant. Well, we can see them just edging their way out. One player coming in from short, the rest to be coming in from Monster. This stack could prove to be rather painful. Config both can spot out Innocent as the smoke will fade. And also looking for some big frags on towards Monster. He will find the herd first. A nice little headshot to roll in. Finds the second. Won't quite find the third. Misha going to be down to do the damage in the end of things. But now Innocent, he's got a free pass out from short. But MSL, he's coming right in from behind. That somehow doesn't make it work. But Cation be finally going to find the ult pick from above. Innocent, he needs to take down this AWP. He wants to walk away with a round on the board. At the same time, that bomb is just right next to him. The Molotov going to be doing some work. Forces KGB out of position. We're back to this 1 versus 2 with the bomb. Should be able to get itself down nice and safely.
Yeah, at least some extra money for the Kinguin side to work with, but now we're looking all on Innocent. He's got to try and bring this one back from a 1 versus 2. Really going to be looking more towards Rubino in this stance, unless somehow a peek from Cajun can allow him to get that free frag. We are going to see that flashbang coming in. It will allow a little bit of aggression. It will give away the position of Cajun, but it's more the position of Rubino. But that's a nice shot. Now looking for the trade will be Cajun B, and he's going to get it. Missed shots in the end from the T player of Innocent, not going to get that frag. And I thought after he found the first, there's a much more plausible scenario that they'd be able to get the second. Unfortunately, it is not to be. However, loss bonus 3,400 plus the 800 of the bomb. There's definitely a buy coming.
A storm brewing indeed, but for Dignitas, they are looking very pleased with how things unfold. But tell me a time where we've not seen Dignitas walk up with a 5-0 lead. They made it 6-0, but then they threw it all away. We've seen that happen on Train. And I've got to say, do we think it's going to take place in overpass? I'm still not 100% confident in Dignitas. The one nice thing we're seeing, Config slightly just starting to wake up just a little.
Yeah, has had a much better start to this game than he did the last. Starting on that favoured side once again, but now we see whether or not they can continue this push. That's a big thing. They lost 4 players in the last round, had to force buy up with more, but there is Magisk. He goes aggressive again. It is just going to be the quick trade, but this did manage to work out for them in the last round. I would say that doing that trade every single time eventually should work out with Kinguin getting themselves around on the board. We are going to see some aggression from Cajun B towards long, which quickly falls back towards the side itself, and no real dedication to either side just yet from the T's. They've left the bomb firmly over towards the playground position, and this means that they're really still not decided. They do have a lurker as well over towards the B side, but not going too aggressive just yet, playing very passively, in fact, with Config still looking over towards the monster position in case there is some sort of aggressive push. 50 seconds coming up on the clock, meaning still plenty of time for the T side to actually make their move, but it is going to be that position of MSR. I'm not a huge fan of this, but with the cover of the AWP, it could be quite valuable, but now the cover is gone. He's going to be going for a bit more of a peek, needs to find this frag, and it's not going to happen. Now it's all down to Cajun B. He's going to be on this site alone. The rotation will be coming pretty quickly. The bomb not yet making his presence known, but it is still 30 seconds left on the clock. They have to make this decision, and it's all going to be that fake. The B side now being taken over by Mihu. He will hold down the wall, and he's going to try and stop anybody getting onto the site without his permission.
It's looking very rough suddenly for Dignitas. They are falling apart rapidly. Rubino going to be trying to find a quick trade here, just looking down from above. For those doors, they seem like they are being slammed shut. They are being held in a very sufficient manner. The more Cajun B, he might find a quick flick on towards Moniz. You have to say that's not going to be enough. It's going to be that 2 versus 3. Cajun B, he seems to have an idea of maybe trying to do some damage. But even the damage, it's not what you're looking for. And well, this almost rings true to something I mentioned at the start of this round, where I said Dignitas, we've seen them at a 5-0 lead before. And now we're already starting to see that Kinguin side just begin the process of outplaying them and almost making Dignitas outthink themselves.
Well, it's almost as if for the first few rounds, it's just like the Kinguin side is sort of computing their opposition, downloading analysis, getting that information into play, and then going, okay, weakness computed, and then just walking onto the site and destroying them. And that round was actually really smart. They take the first frag, isolating, well, second frag, I guess, after the Magisk fiasco. But, yeah, you talk about that sort of long position. It was great when that AWP was holding the angle. And the timing just was a little bit off. The second that happened, MSL was left isolated. That position is way too out in the open. The best scenario was a trade. The worst scenario was exactly what happened. He gets taken down without any real response. And that just left basically Kinguin free roam to play the mind games. Do have a buyback on the board. It is still that potential for a reset on either team. You have to remember Kinguin have only managed 1. And the same thing for Dignitas now, as they've now had 1 player survive, then lose a round. Now if they lose another one, they're going to be hurting quite a bit. But at the same time, the buy they have isn't too bad. In fact, quite a bit of utility. Only 1 Molotov, which does make things a little bit more difficult, but the setup seems to be quite strong.
Strong indeed. Magisk is going to be looking for something. Cajun B actually going to be the man to go aggressive. Finds himself a tag. Knocking Misha down to 33 HP. But that is not going to be stopping Kinguin from just trying to barrel up on towards the site. The best ideal for scenario for Dignitas is to shut them down before they even get there, and it will be Magisk just doing the work. Makes it 2, looking to make it 3. He does just that, mowing them down right where they stand. Sparrow finally going to up the ante, finds himself a frag on towards MSL. But you have to talk about the fact that what can they do here is a 2 versus 4. The bomb drops right in the palms of Dignitas. They do have 45 seconds on the clock. That is one, at least godsend favour being delivered for them to try and play around. But even then, the bomb is going to be ticking away. Those rifles looking to try and find something. But the strategy they're employing, well, it's holding an angle. And if there's one thing Dignitas are going to be smart enough to do, it's not to get overzealous, not to get ridiculous, and, well, most importantly, in a nutshell, don't go for crazy pushes, and that's what we're seeing. A passive setup coming in from Dignitas. KGB going to take down Innocent with the AWP, looking to make this last killing blow. More Magic, he's just going to spray through the corner of Chuck, and Rubino going to be the man to find the final frag. It's going to be Dignitas delivering that upsetting blow. Kinguin, well, their economy, it's non-existent.
Yeah, they are going to go for a force in this round. It is sort of that double AK Galil buy that was basically just the idea that we don't really want to have to eco for a couple of rounds to get a full buy. So what they've decided to do is they'll risk it this round. If they lose, they eco the next and buy up in one more. If they win, well, it's a different scenario altogether, but that's the risk they're taking. And let's see if it actually pays off in their favor. Dignitas, of course, with a nigh on full buy, but still not squeaky clean just yet. With 4 players surviving in the last round, it does look pretty decent, or at least improving. And already a little bit of a risk. Mihu managing not to quite find that kill, but it will be the first going on to Minis. Cajun going to open things up. And now we're looking at the remaining players, the non-lurk players, over towards B.
The pressure going to be on. And, you know, I'm a mixed fan of this setup. It doesn't look like it's working out so far. A quick trade to boot. Innocent to find one. Innocent to find a frag of his own. Rubino now just taking down Misha. And one by one, they seem to be falling. Innocent on 3 HP. Nowhere near what he wants to find himself, especially when he's wielding this Galil and holding the hopes of Kinguin in his hands. This force up, well, they have one hell of a job in front of them. They are going to go for the aggressive peek. MSL going to be the man to punish him. Takes down Mouse. And now we're looking at a player on 3 HP up against a combined total of 400. Well, that looks very uncomfortable indeed.
Yeah, we'll manage to get one at least, extra damage done. The thing I want to highlight, though, I think this is my big problem with Kinguin. When they have a man advantage, their sort of tactical play is actually pretty damn superb. I'm really impressed by what they do when they have a man advantage. They'll play the mind games, they'll rotate very effectively, they'll throw people off and even make Dignitas over-rotate and give them a free sight. When they have a man disadvantage, it's like they turn into potatoes. It was just one of the worst strategically based rounds I've ever seen. Okay, let's just all individually peek onto B, a site that is very closed off in angles and will give the advantage more so than already because we have weaker weaponry to that CT side. And well, it really was just a poor round. It has to be said from the Kinguin side. If you noticed any of their players do anything amazing, please feel free to tweet me, but I feel like that was horrific. Either way, we are going to see a nice little clean-up round, a few fragging montage moments for Cajun B as he picks up 3 lovely easy kills, and that's going to be 8 rounds already on the board for Dignitas.
Kinguin, their economy going to be in a little bit more of a fairer state this time around. They're going to be putting every single penny they've got in the bank, being left with just well, make that $250 now after that final tiny little buy roll again, which means that, well, basically nothing left for Kinguin. This is everything they've got. 5 rifles. Utility-wise, it's not the greatest picture you've ever seen. We talk about how important Molotovs and such things are. Well, they don't even have a single Molotov in play. Just these HE grenades, just these flashes. Well, as much as I want to be a supporter of Kinguin at this point, they've done well on maps in the past. They have 1 round on the board, and already looks like they are actually going to kick things off. Didn't expect it to go that way, but they managed to make it work. Quick trade's going to be coming in. Mini's going to be doing the work in this round. Most down to Rubino with a quick trade with the UMP. They're making some money. Potential to find another frag, and well, how is he getting away with that one? Just a repeat occurrence with the UMP doing the work and makes it 2.
And now it is down to 3 versus 2 scenarios. The CTs managed to clutch at straws to bring this one back. Cajun going to be going with an aggressive peek. Has to be careful. He is in a very open position, but Spiro missing the jump will make things a little bit more difficult. Up close and personal. Cajun just gets away with that. 5 HP, but this leaves Miles now in a predicament. He has 56 HP, 1 smoke, the bomb, and 3 players to find. 2 of them are low. Cajun has an AWP, so this could be problematic. And he doesn't seem to spot him. Maybe the smoke faded a little bit faster on GoTV than it did in the actual game. But either way, nice easy kill for Cajun to finish off the round. Their money is going to be booming even more than before after the nice few kills from Rubino. And the big thing for me, doesn't seem to be much of a weak link at the moment. Config's still not going absolutely huge, but I feel like in this sort of circumstance, not really necessary, as Cajun's just finding kills all over the shop.
A very strong performance coming out from Dignitas on their CT side. Looking to make a very one-sided map out of this one as already. They're going to be going aggressive, just mowing these Tech 9s down. Already Magic's going to be the man to do the damage. The Molotov going to be landing straight at the feet of Innocent. He's going to push right on through. Won't quite be able to connect the frag, and eventually the bomb will be dropped. Magic just doing even more, whipping out the pistol, trying to just give him that pistol whip at the sidearm, and well, the frags seem to just be rolling in. NSL going to find another occasion, be just doing the 180, turning around, and finds himself a frag of his own.
Yeah, nice little round from Magisk, again, boosting his fragging count a little bit more. I do feel like a lot of what come down to Config's current fragging ability is the fact that he's on the B site, and the majority of the time they haven't been going in that direction, which is somewhat of a surprise. Most teams favor that site very, very heavily, but in this circumstance they've been going A a lot more, and it's him and MSL over on that site. You can see them as the two bottom fraggers in the game, so maybe it's just more circumstance than actually ability at this stage. Either way, Magisk and Cajun sort of having a bit of a field day at the moment. Rubino back to the SMG, and that is a choice because he can definitely afford to buy something else if needed. But backing up the close position of Cajun, it actually seems like quite a smart decision from him. Either way, that will be another kill added on to the Orpa's tally, having a very good CT side and starting again with a frag. And now I want to see what reaction Kinguin have. I want to dissect their minds in their decisions. And at the moment, it looks like they are just slowly pushing towards A, looking to try and get some sort of counter. Mihu will manage one, but missed AWP shot. Mihu very low on HP, but manages to grab another. The individual stepping up massively, and now we are going to see that push onto the A side. Slightly delayed with the bomb, so we'll be coming a little bit later than the rest of the team, but they're not yet deciding to go onto that site, and now they have a man advantage, so will they opt to change their decision? Mihu just going across the crosshair of MSL, not going to find anything just yet, and he's going to be leading point, even though he is low on HP, possibly the cannon fodder for this team is not too much of a loss considering he's already so low. But here we go, Rubino going to be taken down, the SMG having no part. MSL, he's going to be the last man actually on the site. Config rotating in. MSL should be given a free frag. A little bit delayed, but there's Mouse with the trade. Leaves just one player left, Config. He finds one. Now he's got two more to deal with. Looking for the rotation of Spiro, who's probably just going to find this headshot and does just that.
A round ushered into the board from Kinguin. Some huge players coming out. But you have to talk about the fact that Kinguin, they might have some money to play with that allows them to get, for the most part, everything they need to go into this round. Dignitas, well, they have 13,000 on one of the players in the bank pre-buy. So they are not worried at all. They're on a 10-2 scoreline. That 8-round gap is going to be absolutely huge. This is much harder for Dignitas to throw away than a simple 6-0 lead.
Yeah, no, this is a much worse predicament for Kinguin at this point. If they can get themselves to 5, then sure, I wouldn't be too unhappy about that. And Spiro reading that one quite nicely, realizing that Cajun might go for some sort of a switch-up pick. This is going to change the dynamic of the round quite heavily, in fact, because Cajun has been probably the best player in the server so far, especially with the amount of impact frags he's actually been getting. In the last round, didn't manage to do as much, but now we're looking to see what the Kinguin side can do. And this has been where they're at their best. When they have a man advantage, they're very effective at trading. They're good at playing mind games. And this is where they could try and outthink the thought process of MSL.
Time is going to be taken down, going back to this kind of mid-process of a round. And we're not seeing too much movement taking place, aside from Kinguin actually just getting themselves closer and closer together in terms of bunching up as a unit. That bomb's still just going to be hanging back over towards Fountain. Dignitas, though, very static. They've got this 4-man lineup just relaxing. Spiro, they're going to be the man with the AWP. Seems like he wants to be the entry fragger almost for this push. Just find himself a bit of an impact frag, and there let the rifles do the work, because now the flash is going to be going out towards long. I'm looking towards his boost to try and do some work. Magic will find one with a quick trade to roll in from Spiro with the AWP. MSL, he spotted out a player, goes to the frag, finds the first, needs to take down Mishu to have any impact at all, but he does just that, mows them down where they stand, and now Maniz and Spiro, the work going to be cut out for them. Going to get sprayed down through the smoke by Config, and one by one they fall apart. And Kinguin, you might have found a round, but you have just been mowed down where you stand by the Dignitas side, who all single-handedly have just stepped up and delivered their own little unique twist into that round. And that's where we find ourselves in an 11-2 scoreline.
Whoever threw that flash for MSL absolutely nailed that timing. That blinded 2 players on long. That changed it from a 4v3 into a 3v2, and then the second that happened, the Kinguin players panicked. We saw Maniz run straight through a smoke. He was dead, didn't have any sort of chance, and Rubino then was able to flank without any real effort at all. So big flashbang shows the exact power that one $200 nade can have, and, well, definitely worth the investment.
Now, in this 14th round, it's going to be, well, a bit of an interesting choice coming out from Kinguin. They are putting a fair good chunk into this round, but already it's not going their way. Rubino, the man to do the work, finds himself a quick and easy frag on towards Mishu. Certainly not the way Kinguin were hoping for this one to unfold. And, well, for me at this point, they are just clasping at straws. We're seeing a much more decisive Dignitas. We're seeing a Config who's finally awoken from his slumber, and it all seems to be working out in their favour. Just 2 rounds for them to try and contend with. They're trying to make it 3. But Config and Spiro, they will just trade things directly back at each other. Rubino now going to be down to try and hold off Monster. Finds a frag on just 13 HP, making it stick. Magic's going to be pushing him from behind, just adding the extra aura of pressure as he finds another frag, just dropping Manai's And it seems, unfortunately, for Kinguin, as much as Sparrow might find a frag on towards MSL, they need more than just Sparrow to pick themselves up around at this point. As we bring ourselves to that 12-2 scoreline, this will either swing one of two ways. We're either going to a 12-3 or a 13-2.
Yeah, and either way, it's a very bleak scenario for the Poles. They showed a great showing on either side, really, of Train, showing how the T side can be prominent enough for them to get 6. Same can be said for their T side on Mirage, but definitely not going to be singing their praises about this T side. It does seem one that the second they lose that man advantage, things fall apart for them, and Cajun has been very good bringing that blow to their team very early on, the AWP being a massive insight. But last few rounds anyway, it's been a few other players stepping up. MSL, the sort of support play as well, has been on point from the Dignitas side, and they really are looking very strong. And Magisk, well, considering how aggressive he's being, he's been getting a lot of frags, 16-7 at this point. Cajun again starting things off with the opening frag, looking to see Magic find another one. It will actually be MSL to steal that one from his grasp, but it doesn't really matter who's getting the frags at this point, as there's now one man and one man alone. He may be the star of this team, but even this is a stretch.
A 13-2 half. Now, just bear with me here, but would either of us sat down at the start of this map and gone, no, yeah, we're going to see a 13-2?
No.
Would anyone out there have sat down at the start of this map and gone, yeah, we're going to see a 13-2?
Maybe MSL?
Maybe MSL. Because, well, if there's one thing for sure, they're all playing with confidence. We're seeing a bit more of Config. We're starting to see just this team work together. Now, albeit it's not the greatest performance of Config of his life, but he's having an impact. And he's being there to support his team instead of being just off the face of the earth somewhere hiding in the corner.
Well, as I said, a lot of that's been down to the fact that they just haven't really gone B. Most of the attacks have gone down over towards that A site, which we've sort of spoken about the previous before, saying you shouldn't just go B. At the same time, you should just go A. I feel like it is probably the more prominent site just because of the afterplant positions, but at the same time, it can be a lot easier to take over that B site. Either way, they have got 3, maybe even 4 players looking over towards B at the moment, with the Heaven position waiting for a quick rotate, but not really too, well, stuck in their ways, I should say, the Dignitas side at the moment. They are just going to be waiting, rotating, maybe even baiting to see if they can find themselves one more round and make this an even bleaker scenario for the Poles.
This first round is going to be crucial because you have to say, Dignitas, if they do walk away with this one and go unscathed in that follow-up round, the game and the series is in their grasp. But for Kinguin, this is where they look to really bring everything to the table. They are going to be, well, not only feeling it, but they know they have to hit these shots. This is the moment that counts. Well, if there was a moment we want to see some players prove something, now it'll be it, but it's going to be MSL to kick things off. Finds himself a frag with the Glock, takes down Mishu. Going to be trying to sell something over towards B. He's going to be picking up nice and close on Spawn's eyes. Innocent going to find 2 quick headshots, makes it 3, going for 4, but Sparrow going to steal that one away from him. And Kinguin, well, we said we wanted to see something. I wasn't quite expecting that.
Tappa, go the heads. There's not really much else to say. They just took every single player down. They are going to have the bombardment of the pistols coming back at them, and we have seen them lose rounds like this before. They're going quite heavy on the rifles, 3 and with a P90, so really spending the same sort of money you would if you bought a rifle instead. At the same time, we do now have that MP9 back in play as the only real avenue for money making on the team. But at this point, they can't afford to take any risks. They are so far down, they have to string a pretty ridiculous amount of rounds together, 10 just to be back into the line of things, and, well, then another 3. But we have seen them drag a comeback before. We've also seen them do the opposite before, so there's a potential on both sides of things. But let's see what this quad deagle setup can do yet again. Going to be trying to just pick apart this round and not really use too much tactical basis here, as the Tech 9s don't really allow for too much of that. Except maybe, okay, I'll shoot him in the leg a couple of times, then you hit him in the chest.
It's always a bit of an awkward situation. This is why I'm not really a fan, because as much as they might want to pry open a round, seems like the only team being open this time around is going to be the chest of Dignitas, as they are left with not a single man standing, no frags being found. So a force up left, well, rather pointless, as now they will just be taking their $2,000, running to the hills, spending this round in a very nice, relaxed, Glock-based fashion. And well, ultimately, they're not going to be worrying just yet, but the worrying prospect for me is looking at this from an external perspective, that hindsight opinion, and going, yeah, it's 13-4, but we've seen Dignitas do this before. We've seen them throw it away.
Yeah, I would say that it's very early days. I'm not too worried about their T side just yet, because we haven't even seen a single buy. If they get dominated out of it, then maybe there'll be a possibility. But the more important thing for me is the fact that we can now see Kinguin potentially get those AWPs back in play. However, this has been a very hefty half. They may have only lost a couple of rounds over on that second half of the last map, but this is going to be a difficult one. Nice spray coming in, and will actually almost keep it clean until Mouse decides to try and make some money off the chest of his teammate.
Bit of an interesting decision, but hey, why not kill it for some of your teammates every now and then? That's apparently a decision that you decide to make, and well, either way, they still pick up the round. That's what counts. Not much to read into too much there, but 13-5 scoreline. Finally get to see those 5 rifles on the board from the Dignitas side of things. We get to see that double AWP setup, something you did mention on the CT side of Kinguin.
That's the more interesting thing for me. What? That's basically down to positional play, I imagine, but he is not normally that secondary AWP. We've seen it.
We have seen it every now and then, though. It's been a very rare occurrence,
yeah,
but it's not completely off the table. It's something that, you know, once in a blue moon you could say they do bring. But the last time I remember him using it, it works. And he makes it stick in this round. Finds a frag on towards Magic, finding the entry frag. Sparrow going to find another. Just taking config out of the round. And, well, Misha going to find another one. You were hesitant, but he's proving the point right now. Just really selling this one home. That's what 3 men of Dignitas have fallen. And this AK buy, well, it's left, well, wholeheartedly broken.
Yeah, no, really nice already. The double AWP's doing their work. Cajun going to find one back. And, of course, extra damage is always going to be valuable, especially when you're on that T side. Does mean the likelihood for a buy is pretty slim, especially without a bomb plant going into this next round. But we are going to be looking towards what can be done. Already we're going to see a tag onto Cajun. He's down to just 14 HP. And there comes the flashbang to force him back out of position. They only have 45 seconds left to play with in this round. And realistically, we can't expect too much from the remaining 2 players. But if they do go over towards that B side, they do have the potential. It will be a 2v2 no matter what position they go to. And if they get a bomb down, then sure, there's still the potential for them to get enough to actually get a buy in the next round. But other than that occurrence happening, I don't feel like there's too much to hope for in the next, with just the possibility of some pistols. And already we're going to see them using this extra utility. The position of Innocent should be primed, and he's even going to get a free one as Rubino just doesn't spot him out.
It's looking pretty worrying, and what's going to be, well, looks like a bit of a clean sweep for the most part. Only 2 frags being found by Dignitas. It will be Cajun beat last of all, the frag being dished out by Innocent, of course. A plan that, you know, he is doing some really good damage. He's a top fragger on the side of Kinguin right now, 13-15. And, well, yes, you look at that from first glance and go, well, that's actually not that great of a scoreline in terms of performance. But in terms of impact frags and what he's finding, he's doing a really good job. And, well, you look at the scoreline of 13-6, Kinguin are on their way to bringing this one back.
Yeah, it's a long, long road ahead. But they have started to get this one going. Looking at a much faster play. This is a sort of reactive decision from where the AWPs have been playing, but a big switch up this time. I like this. However, Mihu's got to be very careful. He is being shut down. Going to throw out a nade as a sort of last-ditch effort to do some damage. But already they've now lost 3 players. That's a scary prospect. 1 player per site. The AWP of Spiro could be the weaker of the 2. Especially as trying to find 4 players, if they're all running towards you with Tech 9s, it's not going to be the easiest stance, especially now that 2 of them actually picked up rifles, although one of them is an AWP and such. We are going to wait now to see where they actually opt to go. Of course, no armor on any of the players, so pushing into Mouse could actually give him a big chance to spray them down, but it's going to be a much more difficult situation. They are going to switch over. Cajun now with the AWP. I feel like that is the more logical of the 2 stances. Magic actually does have a little bit of armor, so maybe giving him the M4 could have been the better circumstances. He's less likely to get aim punched, although very low on HP anyway, so probably will get taken out of the round. But now we're going to be looking for Spiro. He gets taken straight out by Cajun. The jump timing perfect, and the headshot is wonderful. Now we're looking at a horrific round for Kinguin. No matter what happens, even if this crazy clutch comes in from Mouse, they have lost 4 players and given away a bomb plant. Mouse, I think going for this is almost a smart decision, but just on the amount of frags he has alone, 6 overall, he needs to get more than half of that just to win this round.
See, this is where I'm in disagreement. I don't even think this is smart. He can get easily overwhelmed by the force of Dignitas. You can't take 4 gunfights at the same time.
Can't even take 1.
Can't even take 1. Config going to be delivering a brutal headshot straight to his cranium, and, well, some would say the caster's curse coming full swing, because the minute we start to have faith in Kinguin bringing it back, they can just walk away with a round like that. And now Kinguin, their economy, actually going to left somewhat rough, but they do get to bring something into this round. It will be the AWP and the rifles forced up, so they are going to be looking to keep this one in full swing, and in return break Dignitas. But also Dignitas looking much stronger. If they can win around with Tech 9s, you have to think about what they can do. Now they have an AWP and play a double AWP in the hands of MSL. And their players starting to look very, very comfortable.
The scary thing for me is I don't even think this would break them. They actually have 4 players who didn't have to buy any weapons. They had, I think, 3 to 4K on 4. Yes, Magisk, I think, was having a little bit of problem with the ability to buy, so he may be on a Tech 9 or something. But even if they win this round, there's going to be something at least coming back at them in the next round. Failed Molotov won't have any sort of impact just yet, but Innocent is going to be taken down to just 34 HP. If they lose this round, I think this game is good as done for the Kinguin side. And even if they win it, that one round has sort of really released any sort of confidence I had in their CT side. MSL will open things up. The old Orpa back to his old tricks. Hasn't had that one in his hands for a while, but it's nice to see him still picking up that frag. We are going to be looking to see whether or not they can continue this reign now. 14-6 up. Spiro going to go for the peak. It is going to be a frag, but Rubino's ready and waiting to trade. Another will come in. MSL doing great work with that AWP, just lurking around this site. Even going to go for a repeat by the looks of things, and he's just single-handedly picked his way through this round. 1 player left, Innocent with 34 HP, and he's going to get ended. The AWPs getting all the frags but 1.
A very nice round. Perhaps single-handedly coming out from the dismantle. It seems to be KGB. He's having a very strong game. Very nice first half, and he's backing up with a second half performance, 24-9. Certainly a very nice performance indeed. They're sticking to stay on a serious point. This is the last round they need to walk away with a win from this series. A 2-1 win at that on Kinguin. And well, what did Kinguin have to stop it? A UMP, 3 5.7s and a scout. That is not at all what you look at and go, yeah, that can stop a full buy of a team like dignitas.
Already we see Innocent taking a lot of damage with the nades. Config not quite going to knock him through the smoke, but we'll see the nade coming back towards him. Mihu going to go very aggressive here. Magic is waiting. Head ripped off. That's going to be the first frag to put those nails in the coffin. There are 4 more players left to try and make this one work. No real utility except for Innocent, and even then, he's only left with a UMP, the scout onto Spiro as well. Let's see what they can actually try and do in this round already. I'm seeing the holes start to made slim. Magic's even going to find one more blind, adding insult to injury. This leaves just 3 players in a round with 5, and less rifles on the other side by a hefty margin.
Hefty margin indeed. They just have a UMP and a scout, and that solitary 5.7 in play. 35 HP left on Innocent, in fact. So might not be 25, but it's still not ideal because they're up against 5 men standing of dignitas. Most of them well and truly intact. Innocent might find one just peeking out with the UMP, takes down Rubino. But even then, they have 40 seconds to play on the dig side of things. Kinguin trying to hold things off. Do see Mouse just getting baited for a bit of a peek there over towards short, but still not going to amount to anything just yet. But the time is getting lower and lower, and it looks like at this point things are getting very uncomfortable. Innocent, he's going to find another, so doing some good work with the UMP. They just haven't quite got the bomb in a position. They've got 20 seconds to play with, so they need to move quite quickly, but it will be MSL finding a very aggressive pick with the AWP, takes down Mouse, and now they are going to be getting that bomb down. Nice and comfortable, the time on their favour, if there will be no disruption rolling in. Well, there might be a bit of a gunfight going on, but Innocent, he's not going to find anything. In fact, he's going to be on the receiving end, knocked down to 3 HP. The wallbang's trying to roll in. Not quite going to work out just yet, but he's cutting this one very, very close. Is he the last man standing for his team? He should be dead very, very soon. He will still actually peek out and find a frag, brings it back to a 1 versus 2. The Molotov going to be going down.
No, I thought he burnt alive. No, he was hit by Cajun at the end. Almost a comical finish for Innocent trying to do his work. But that will be it. That will be Dignitas going through to face off against Flipside in the next round. That will be the round of 8, although it is a little bit confusing as 2 teams technically go through, so even technically pushing our way towards a final. Either way, that is going to be it for today. Dignitas making it through in a pretty decent fashion, but still need to work out some kinks on train. Either way, thank you very much for watching. That is all for tonight. We will be back further in the week, but that will be all for now. Goodbye.
E-gaming bets, online betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and Overwatch, StarCraft 2, the choice is yours. Express bets for multiple matches or live bets on the game you are watching right now. Know your way around Dota 2, make a prediction for picks and bans. Play CSGO, discover more than 5 various kinds of bets just for a single map. Daily quests for all participants and all the best choice of payment systems. More than 600,000 users have already made their bets on the spectacular matches since 2011. EGB.com. You know for sure who's gonna win.
Getting tired of playing with the usual skins, but don't have enough money to buy a new one? Get rich fast with CSGoFast.com. CS Go Fast. It's a strong chance of winning in every game. several rooms with different game modes. Daily, more than 1,000 games, 5,000 players, and 25,000 skins at stake. You don't need much in order to sweep the board.